In October 1824, the USS Wildcat, a schooner of the United States Navy, disappeared with all hands while sailing through the Caribbean, an event often retroactively cited in the folklore of the Bermuda Triangle. Incident overview. Lost date, October 28, 1824. Route, sailing from Havana, Cuba, to Thompson's Island, now known as Key West, Florida. Casualties, all 31 crew members on board were lost. Likely cause, official naval records and contemporary reports indicate the ship was lost in a violent gale or hurricane. Ship history. The USS Wildcat was a 48-ton, two-masted schooner purchased in Baltimore in late 1822. It was part of the West Indies Squadron, also known as the Mosquito Fleet, which was tasked by Commodore David Porter to suppress pirate raids on merchant ships in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. Its shallow draft allowed it to pursue pirates into coastal waters around Cuba and Puerto Rico. Connection to the Bermuda Triangle. The disappearance of the Wildcat is frequently listed in chronologies of mysterious incidents within the Bermuda Triangle. However, historical evidence points to a conventional maritime disaster. An 1824 report in Niles Weekly Register noted that an arm chest and other wreckage from the vessel were found near Carey's Foot Reef, east of Key Largo, suggesting the ship ran aground or foundered during a storm. In 1840, the French merchant ship Rosalie, often identified as the Rossini, was found drifting and abandoned near the Bahamas, within the region known as the Bermuda Triangle. It is frequently cited as one of the earliest documented ghost ship mysteries of the area. The scene: the ship was found in perfect condition with its sails set and a valuable cargo of silks, wines, and fruit completely intact. Missing crew. Despite the ship being seaworthy, not a single human was found on board. The only living inhabitants were a cat, some fowls, and several canaries that were half dead with hunger. Status of the vessel: there were no signs of a struggle, accident, or fire. The captain's papers were secure in their place, and although there was 3 feet of water in the hold, there was no leak. The Rossini mix-up. Modern research suggests the Rosalie was actually the ship Rossini, which ran aground on the Mimbres Rocks in August 1840. Safe rescue. It is widely believed that the crew and passengers abandoned the ship after it ran aground and were safely rescued by other vessels or made it to Cuba. Salvage confusion. The ship was later found drifting after being lifted off the rocks by high tides, leading to reports of a ghost ship when it was spotted without its original crew. The USS Cyclops, a massive U.S. Navy collier, vanished with 306 people in March 1918 while carrying manganese ore through the Bermuda Triangle, becoming the largest non-combat loss in Navy history, with no wreckage or distress call found, fueling theories from structural failure due to overloading to German U-boat attacks, cementing its place as a key mystery of the region. Its disappearance, coupled with sister ships Proteus and Nereus also lost later, highlights the enigma of this infamous area. When last seen March 4, 1918, sailing from Barbados. What? A huge U.S. Navy collier, massive for its time. Cargo: over 10,000 tons of manganese ore, a dense cargo. Route: heading north from Barbados towards Baltimore. Loss: all 306 crew and passengers lost, No trace found. No distress call, no SOS was sent, making its disappearance sudden and silent. No wreckage, extensive searches found nothing, no debris, lifeboats, or bodies. Sister ship losses, 2 sister ships, Proteus, Nereus, carrying similar or vanished under similar conditions later, adding to the puzzle. Bermuda Triangle phenomena, storms, rogue waves, magnetic anomalies, or other paranormal forces are often suggested. Structural failure. The Proteus-class ships had known structural weaknesses. Heavy manganese ore is much denser than the coal they were designed to carry. If it became wet and shifted into a slurry, it could cause the ship to list and capsize rapidly. Mechanical issues. One of the ship's 2 engines was inoperative due to a cracked cylinder, reducing its speed and maneuverability just before it entered a reported violent storm on March 10. Enemy action. As the disappearance occurred during WWI, many suspected a German U-boat or sea mine. However, German records reviewed after the war showed no U-boats in the area at that time. Bermuda Triangle lore. The lack of a distress signal or debris fueled myths about the region's unexplained forces. This was later compounded by the fact that 2 of its sister ships, the USS Proteus and USS Nereus, also vanished without a trace in the same general area during World War II. Internal strife. Some theories point to the eccentric behavior of the captain, George W. Worley, who was accused by some of being a pro-German sympathizer or a lunatic whose leadership may have led to mutiny or disaster. (1921) January 31st, Caroll A. Deering, 5-masted schooner, Captain W. B. Wormel, found aground and abandoned at Diamond Shoals, near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The Caroll A. Deering is one of the most famous maritime mysteries often linked to the Bermuda Triangle. In January 1921, the 5-masted commercial schooner was found run aground on Diamond Shoals, off the coast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. While the ship was structurally intact with its sails set, its crew of 11 or 12 men had vanished without a trace, leaving only a 6-toed cat behind. Connection to the Bermuda Triangle. Although the ship was found near North Carolina outside the traditional boundaries of the Bermuda Triangle, it is frequently cited in triangle lore for several reasons. Voyage route. The Deering passed through the triangle during its final voyage from Rio de Janeiro to Norfolk, Virginia. Vanishing crew. The complete and sudden disappearance of the crew, alongside missing lifeboats and navigational equipment, mirrors typical triangle mysteries. Simultaneous disappearances. At the time, other vessels, most notably the sulfur freighter SS Hewitt, also disappeared in the same general region, leading to theories of a large-scale anomaly or hostile force. Mutiny. High tension between Captain Willis B. Wormel and his first mate, Charles McClellan, was documented. Evidence on board, such as a change in handwriting in the logbook, suggested the captain may have been relieved of command. Piracy/rum running. During the Prohibition era, it was suspected that pirates or rum runners captured the crew. A message in a bottle claiming piracy was discovered but later proven to be a hoax. Environmental factors. Known as the graveyard of the Atlantic, the Diamond Shoals are notoriously dangerous. Some experts believe the crew abandoned ship and lifeboats during a storm and were swept away. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest supernatural causes or extraterrestrial intervention, though these are largely dismissed by historians and official. (1925) December 1st, SS Cotopaxi, having departed Charleston, South Carolina 2 days earlier bound for Havana, Cuba, radioed a distress call, reporting that the ship was sinking. She was officially listed as overdue on December 31st. In 1985 an unknown shipwreck was found off St. Augustine, Florida. In 2020 it was identified as the remains of the SS Cotopaxi. SS Cotopaxi, this ship was last seen in 1925 and then mysteriously disappeared, only to reappear 90 years later in the Bermuda Triangle. Rust aside, it is intact and afloat. In all that time it has never been spotted by any aircraft, satellite, or ship. Where it has been and what happened to its crew remains a mystery, as not a single bone was found on board. SS Cotopaxi, a coal-carrying freighter, vanished on December 1, 1925, after leaving Charleston for Havana, becoming a famous Bermuda Triangle legend after sending a distress call about taking on water during a storm. While it fed supernatural myths, and even appeared in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the ship's wreck, the Bear Wreck, was positively identified off St. Augustine, Florida, by explorer Michael Barnett, confirming it sank due to severe weather, not paranormal forces, with the discovery debunking the mystery. Date: December 1, 1925. Route: Charleston, SC to Havana, Cuba. Cargo: coal. Crew: 32. Last contact: a distress signal reported the ship was listing and taking on water during a tropical storm, placing it near the Bermuda Triangle's vicinity. Decades later, marine biologist Michael Barnett linked the wreck known as the Bear Wreck off Florida to the Cotopaxi by matching ship blueprints to the underwater structure. Records from the ship's insurance broker confirmed the location of the distress call, matching it to the wreck site. The cause was determined to be an unexpected, severe storm hitting the poorly maintained vessel, not a mysterious force. The Bermuda Triangle connection. The Cotopaxi's disappearance became a staple of Bermuda Triangle lore, fueling stories of paranormal activity and alien abduction, as depicted in Spielberg's film. Its rediscovery proved that, while dangerous, the area's disappearances often have natural explanations, though the myth persists. (1941) USS Proteus, AC-9. 1941, USS Proteus, AC-9, lost with all 58 persons on board in heavy seas, having departed St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands with a cargo of bauxite on November 23. The following month, her sister ship USS Nereus, AC-10, was lost with all 61 persons on board, having also departed St. Thomas with a cargo of bauxite, on December 10. According to research by Rear Admiral George Van Deurs, USN, who was familiar with this type of ship from their service in the USN, the acidic coal cargo would seriously erode the longitudinal support beams, making these aging and poorly constructed colliers extremely vulnerable to breaking up in heavy seas. They were both sister ships of the USS Cyclops. The USS Proteus, AC-9, was a Navy collier that became a famous entry in the legend of the Bermuda Triangle after vanishing without a trace in late 1941. The disappearance. Final voyage. On November 23, 1941, the ship departed from St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, bound for an East Coast port in the United States, likely Ottawa or a Canadian port, as she was then serving in the Canadian Merchant Navy. Loss: she disappeared shortly after departure with all 58 crew members. No distress signal was ever received, and no wreckage or debris was found. Cargo: at the time of her loss, she was carrying a heavy cargo of bauxite ore, used for making aluminum. Corrosive cargo: Rear Admiral George Van Dewars theorized that the ship's previous years of carrying acidic coal had severely eroded its internal longitudinal support beams. Structural failure: the dense bauxite ore was much heavier than the coal the ship was originally designed for. Weakened by corrosion and overloaded, the ship likely broke apart or capsized suddenly in heavy seas. No enemy action: post-war records from Germany show no U-boat claims for a vessel matching the Proteus in that area at that time. (1958) Roanoke. A 43-foot racing yawl was lost with owner Harvey Conover and 4 others aboard, between Key West and Miami in a hurricane. The only trace found was the Roanoke's 14-foot skiff, near Jupiter, Florida. The Roanoke, a 43-foot Sparkman and Stevens racing yawl, famously disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in January 1958, taking owner Harvey Conover and his family, with the event inspiring a memoir by his daughter, Sarah Conover, titled Set Adrift, detailing the tragic loss in a sudden, violent storm. Essel, Roanoke, a 43-foot racing yacht. Designer, Sparkman and Stevens. Year built, 1946. Disappearance, January 1958, in the Bermuda Triangle. Circumstances: caught in an unexpected storm with 70 miles per hour winds and 40-foot waves, sinking without a trace. Legacy: the event profoundly affected the family, leading Sarah Conover to write Set Adrift, a memoir exploring the mystery and her grief, according to Sarah Conover. On December 22, 1967, Miami yachtsman Dan Burak and his friend Father Patrick Horgan vanished aboard Burak's 23-foot cabin cruiser, the Witchcraft, near the Bermuda Triangle, making a distress call for a minor issue, a tow, but disappearing completely, with the boat and occupants never found despite extensive searches, becoming a classic, unexplained Bermuda Triangle mystery. The incident. Who? Dan Burak, hotelier, yachtsman, and Father Patrick Horgan, priest. What? Boarded Burak's 23-foot luxury cabin cruiser, the Witchcraft. When? December 22, 1967, around 9 p.m. Where? Near the Bermuda Triangle, off the coast of Miami. Details: Burak called the Coast Guard reporting a minor problem, needing a tow, but was told to wait. Then the Witchcraft disappeared, and despite immediate searches, no trace of the boat or men was found. The disappearance of the Witchcraft is a well-known example of the mysterious disappearances attributed to the Bermuda Triangle, often cited in books and articles about the region's unexplained phenomena. Search and aftermath. An extensive search operation covering hundreds of square miles was conducted over the following days by multiple Coast Guard and Navy ships and Civil Air Patrol planes. No evidence, Despite the clear weather conditions and the short response time, no debris, oil slicks, life vests, or any other trace of the vessel or its occupants were ever found. Unsinkable design. The disappearance was particularly puzzling because Burak had fitted the Witchcraft with a special flotation device in its hull, making it virtually unsinkable. Unsolved mystery. The U.S. Coast Guard officially closed the case without a definitive explanation, and the disappearance remains unsolved. It is often cited as a Bermuda Triangle mystery, despite occurring very close to shore. The boat carrying missing teens Austin Stefanos and Perry Cohen was found capsized off Bermuda in March 2016, months after they disappeared in July 2015, but the boys were never recovered, leaving their fate a mystery despite forensic examination of the boat indicating no foul play in a functional engine until submerged, with the case officially unsolved. 2015, late July, two 14-year-old boys, Austin Stefanos and Perry Cohen, went on a fishing trip in their 19-foot boat. Despite the 15,000 square nautical mile wide search by the Coast Guard, the pair's boat was found a year later off the coast of Bermuda, but the boys were never seen again. Disappearance. The two 14-year-olds vanished after leaving Jupiter Inlet, Florida, on a fishing trip on July 24, 2015, amidst a developing storm. Initial search. A large search and rescue effort by the U.S. Coast Guard covered thousands of miles but found no trace of the boys or their boat. Boat recovery. The boat was first found days after their disappearance but drifted away. It was later recovered by a Norwegian freighter in March 2016, about 100 miles off Bermuda. Investigation. Forensic examination of the boat found the engine was working until it went underwater, and items like Austin's iPhone were recovered, but authorities concluded there wasn't enough evidence for foul play, attributing the capsizing to weather. Outcome. The boys' bodies were never found, and their disappearance remains officially unsolved, though widely considered a tragic accident due to misadventure at sea, prompting increased boating safety awareness. Austin's iPhone. An iPhone belonging to Austin Stefanos was recovered. Despite intensive efforts by Apple and investigators, the phone was too severely damaged by salt water to retrieve any data. Fishing gear. Items such as tackle boxes were found still on the vessel. Notable absences. A life jacket, the engine cover, and a Yeti cooler were missing from the boat when it was first spotted in 2015. Mechanical status. Investigators noted that the boat's ignition and battery switches were in the off position when found, leading to speculation and legal rifts between the families regarding whether the boat had been intentionally disabled or if it was a result of the boys trying to manage the emergency. Cause of capsizing. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC, concluded the boat capsized due to a severe storm. Records indicated the boys were caught in a violent pop-up thunderstorm shortly after leaving the inlet. Boating safety legacy. In the years since, the families established foundations, the Perry J. Cohen Foundation and the Austin Blue Foundation, to promote boating safety and legislative changes, such as incentives for carrying emergency beacon. (1881), according to legend, a sailing ship, the Ellen Austin, found a derelict vessel and placed a crew to sail the vessel to port. Two versions of what happened to the vessel are: The vessel was either lost in a storm or was found again without a crew. Lawrence David Kusha, author of The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved, found no mention in 1880 or 1,881 newspapers of this alleged incident. He did trace the legend to a book by Rupert Gould, The Stargazer Talks, published in 1943. The Ellen Austin did exist. A check from Lloyd's of London records proved the existence of Meta, built in 1854, and that in 1880, Meta was renamed Ellen Austin. There are no casualty listings for this vessel, or any vessel at that time, that would suggest a large number of missing men were placed on board a derelict that later disappeared, although one website includes the alleged derelict vessel incident. It does find that Rupert Gould talked about the legend on radio in the 1930s. Likewise, the website traces the derelict story to a June 1906 newspaper story which claims the derelict ship incident took place in 1891. However, the 1906 story does not give a reference of where this story came from. N 1881. The American schooner Ellen Austin reportedly encountered a ghost ship in the Bermuda Triangle, an incident that has since become one of the region's most famous maritime legends. First crew. A prize crew was sent to sail the schooner to New York, but a storm separated the ships. Second crew. A second crew was sent, but they also vanished after a thick fog rolled in, and the schooner disappeared forever. The USS Pickering. The USS Pickering, a 14-gun topsail schooner of the U.S. Navy, is frequently cited as the first major vessel to disappear within the loosely defined region of the Bermuda Triangle. Disappearance overview, 1800. Mission, in August 1800, during the Quasi-War with France, the Pickering was ordered to join Commodore Thomas Truxton's squadron at the Guadeloupe station in the West Indies. Last contact, she departed from Newcastle, Delaware, on August 20, 1800. The loss. The ship was never seen or heard from again, and all 90 to 91 people on board were presumed lost at sea. Likely cause. While often romanticized as a mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, historians and naval records suggest a more conventional fate. Severe weather. It is widely believed that the Pickering was caught in a powerful equinoctial gale or hurricane that swept through the region in September 1800. Supporting evidence, the same storm is thought to have sunk the USS Insurgent, which also vanished without a trace during that period. A December 1800 newspaper report mentioned a merchant vessel spotting an overturned, large copper-bottomed brig in the area after the hurricane, which may have been the Pickering. USS Wasp, 1814. The USS Wasp, 1814, was a highly successful American sloop of war during the War of 1812 that became one of the most famous early entries in the lore of the Bermuda Triangle. The disappearance of the USS Wasp, 1814. Final sighting. The ship was last seen on October 9, 1814, by the Swedish merchant brig Adonis in the North Atlantic. Last known course. After communicating with the Adonis, Master Commandant Johnston Blakely reported that the Wasp was headed for the Caribbean. Assumed fate. The ship and its entire crew of approximately 140 to 173 men vanished without a trace. It is widely believed to have foundered in a severe hurricane that swept through the region between October 15 and 19, 1814. Bermuda Triangle connection. Because the ship disappeared while en route to the Caribbean, an area later defined as part of the Bermuda Triangle, it is frequently cited as one of the zone's earliest mysterious naval losses. Background and service. The Wasp was renowned for its lethal efficiency during its short service life. Rating success. In just 1 year, it captured or destroyed 13 British merchant vessels and 2 major warships, the HMS Reindeer and the HMS Avon. The Atlanta Prize. Its final recorded action was the capture of the British brig Atlanta on September 21, 1814. Blakely sent the Atlanta back to the U.S. under a prize crew. It arrived safely in Savannah, Georgia, but the Wasp itself was never seen again. Last known position was the Caribbean, lost with 140 people on board. Possibly lost in a storm.